So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders podcast would like to welcome entrepreneur and opera singer all the way out of Canada, Tonia Evans. Is it
Cianciulli.
Cianciulli? Thank you.
Cianciulli.
So welcome, Tonia.
Thank you so much, Karen.
So Tonia, I would obviously like to firstly congratulate you on all your achievements. So can you please share with us how your entrepreneurial and opera career started?
Sure. I mean, when I first discovered my love of opera, was actually when I believe I was in grade 7, and I wanted to be a pop singer. We went downtown with my brothers and my mom to visit her brother, my Uncle Brian. And I said to them all, in the living room, I want to sing this new Bette Midler song to you, Wind Beneath My Wings. And I sang it. And my uncle said, okay, that was really pretty. But he said, I really think that you have a classical voice and you need to take classical lessons to sing opera. And I mean, I was 13, I think, and wanted to be a pop star, and that was nowhere on my radar. Okay. And he was very, very passionate about opera. He helped the Canadian Opera Company with their fundraisers, and he was an usher, and he just was very, very cultured in art, in opera, antique collecting, all that kind of thing. And so he lovingly nudged me into that and took me to the opera and bought me, sheet music and books of anthologies of opera, and, tasked me with learning new famous pieces like Ave Maria, like to start out with classical things, and told me to find a good voice teacher in my area, which I did. And it kind of snowballed like that. But I find that I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always been one to organize things on my own, like concerts or fundraisers or art gallery showings, like pulling together other artists to provide a platform for them to showcase their art, and just support, like be in support of other artists. That's always been a passion of mine. And so I've just always had kind of, I'm artistic, but I'm also very entrepreneurial, I would say.
Yeah, no, well, that's amazing. And especially in the industry today, you have to have, a business and some level of business sense as well. So that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you're an award-winning author. So can you please share with us more about this? Like more about how that came about?
Absolutely. I set out 2 years ago to write a book based on actually a Newfoundland, the first international opera singer from Newfoundland, Georgina Stirling.
Okay.
And she was very famous and performed internationally in the 19th century. Paris, Italy, Germany, Ireland, toured across the United States, performed in Canada a little bit as well. And so I had become fascinated with her because I have roots in Newfoundland. I was born in Newfoundland, and it just so happens that there were a lot of like family connections and that kind of thing with me and this opera singer, Georgina Stirling. And so I started out doing performances on her life, like singing from her repertoire, but also having spoken interjections in between to educate people. And I started doing tours across Newfoundland on this concert. And then we got hold of some family archives in the Newfoundland Memorial University at Queen Elizabeth Library. And my grandfather, Calvin Evans, has written a number of historic books on Newfoundland shipbuilding and that kind of thing. And so we came across this new information on her. There had been a book written on her ages ago, but they had very limited information to go on. And so we started finding all kinds of new information on her, information that contradicted some of the information in the previous book. And so we just were so fascinated by this that it just seemed to be the natural step to write a new biography on her. And it took on a life of its own. And I really believe that it did that because I was following my instincts. I was following my heart. I was following what I was passionate about. And it just snowballed. It was amazing. And so it took us 2 years to write this book from start to finish. You can imagine there's a ton of research involved. And I believe it was the first day of 2020 in January that I woke up to this email saying that we had received a Canada Book Award for our book, The Heart's Obsession. So 2020 got off to an amazing start. And as we all know now with COVID.
Yes. And then COVID took over for sure.
Yes.
So opera is a very special and niche genre and requires incredible discipline and dedication to master your craft. You are multifaceted, you've had multifaceted concerts with your signature solo programs based out of North America. So can you please share with our audience more about this?
Yeah, so sounds like there's a couple things in that question. So first of all, opera is a very disciplined art form. I mean, I really think of opera singers being like athletes, Olympic athletes, because, just like you can't go into a marathon and not having warmed your body and not having consistently trained and practiced what it is you're doing on a daily basis. So opera is the same. Every single day I practice. If I can't fit in a substantial amount of practice, I at least warm my voice up. I take 20 to 30 minutes to warm my voice up because, just like a yoga practice or something, you have to keep your voice flexible. So if you miss a couple weeks of singing, which I have lately because I just feel drained by all this COVID stuff, you miss a couple weeks and it's like you start back at the beginning a little bit. So it's very disciplined, a lot of training, a lot of voice coaching lessons, learning new repertoire, and the solo concerts that I do, I really love concert performing because I get to do a huge variety of repertoire, like you said, versatility in repertoire, and I can take the audience on, a roller coaster of emotions in a short 45-minute concert or an hour and a half concert, and really. I find with concert performing that it pushes me to grow more as a person than as if I was doing like a role in an opera, because it's just you up there on stage. You have a pianist, but it is just you, and you're portraying all of these emotions to your audience and really connecting with them on a one-on-one basis. So I that's why I love concert performing in particular.
No, that's amazing. So what would you say, your biggest lessons and learnings have been within your career?
My biggest what, sorry?
Your biggest lessons and learnings.
Oh, I would definitely say the lesson of consistency is key.
Yeah.
I used to go through phases where I hated practicing, and I don't know, I've grown to love it actually. Yeah. I've grown to love the journey, and because what I've discovered is obviously you work so hard toward a particular project, like a concert or the book, and then it's done. And you're like, what like it feels anticlimactic, and you kind of get that postpartum creative depression. And so I've really learned to appreciate the daily practicing and taking from it, little things that I feel that I accomplished each day. And so consistency is key. It's like the daily drop in the bucket. You notice your growth and your progression over a length of time, and you get excited about that. And then that just makes you feel even more like, yes, I'm excited to practice, even though it's not luxurious and you're not on a stage, but that's where the foundation is laid for sure.
Well, also, I think that, it's like anything, people look at someone and they go, they're amazing, but they don't really know the work and the years, not even months, but years that go into
100%.
it. Yeah.
It's funny. I sometimes think like, I'm on stage in this beautiful gown and my hair and makeup are done for 45 minutes or something, or an hour. And yet I could have worked for 6 months on a certain program of music, learning the diction, the memorization, the phrasing, everything. And it's if you don't fall in love with that process and journey, it can be very, I find I fall into like a depression afterwards sometimes if I haven't really kind of soaked up the journey.
Yes, of course. So that leads me to the next question. So you have obviously had a beautiful and extraordinary career performing with world-renowned companies such as the Opera New York, Toronto Concert Orchestra, Opera Mississauga, just to name a few. So how did this come about, and can you share with us more about this, and how did these opportunities come about, and what was a turning point in your career? Or was there sort of a multitude of things that happened?
I would have to say, like, it's a culmination of everything, your hard work. And, when I graduated from University of Western Ontario, I just started auditioning everywhere I could.
Yeah.
And you start in the chorus, and then you start picking up minor roles, and then you start getting larger roles. And for me, I was kind of hitting a stride. And then I also realized like having a family for me was always like a number one priority. And so I wanted to have my children a bit younger. And so I got pregnant with my first child, and I performed up until I was about 4 months pregnant with her. And then, being a mom is all consuming, but I didn't want to give up singing. But I also knew I didn't want to go back to performing roles in operas, because I'll be honest, unless you want it full time, that's your main priority. It's obviously a ton of work. You're giving up weeknights, weekends, special occasions, you're traveling. It is very challenging to have a full opera career and a family at the same time. I mean, people do it. But for me, my main priority was having children. And then I guess that was kind of a turning point for me, actually, because I really realized where my love fell was in concert performing and in writing. And so, sometimes things just happen authentically and unfold naturally, and you find yourself in the place you're meant to be, even though it might not have been what you thought you wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of your biggest career highlights then?
I would definitely have to say being signed by the publisher to have my book published. That was huge. 2019 was actually a huge year for me, because we had just been signed by Flanker Press, our publisher. And I also had gotten picked up by a record label and released 2 albums at the same time along with the book. So it was an extremely busy year, but an extremely rewarding year.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I want to talk to you about your training and how do you maintain your voice and what goes into the preparation of you and your work. So obviously I'm sure diet and fitness plays a role in your profession. So can you share with us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously we already touched on the consistency of
Yes,
practicing and training your voice. But also what goes along with that is your health is absolutely key.
yes,
Um, it's incredible how many things affect a singer's voice,
yes.
and well, any human being's voice, but for singers, they feel it, they sense it. And so yeah, I did a lot of research on this for my book as well, because I really wanted people to get into the psyche of a professional singer and what they might go through. And so any amount of stress, obviously alcohol, smoking, cold air, lack of sleep,
Yeah.
all of those things have a direct impact on the voice. And you
Mm.
might not notice it right at first, but definitely over time, if you keep up those, harmful habits, that can wreak havoc on a voice. And so I try as much as possible to um, get a handle on any anxiety that I might have from time to time, just dealing with regular life, staying healthy. I try and eat as healthy a diet as I can. I do enjoy a glass of wine or rose vodka, but if I'm performing and I'm getting ready to perform something, I stay away from alcohol as much as possible, because it does dehydrate the voice. And exercise, because when you're whether you're performing on stage in a concert or in a fully staged opera production,
Yes.
your body burns an incredible amount of calories. You're sweating, you're in the moment on the stage, your brain has to work a mile a minute at multitasking, and
Mm.
maybe you feel that you made a mistake, you have to recover really quickly. And I just find that if you're physically fit, um, your whole body can handle that, and then you're not just kind of like completely worn out when you're done a performance or something. So I exercise. I try to move my body every single day, whether it's a power walk or I do just at home 30-minute workout videos, so I can just work up a good sweat, keep my body flexible, strengthen my muscles, my back, my breathing.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole, you have to attack it from all angles, to keep your body and your voice healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, would you say that dairy, or eating dairy products and things also affects
Oh
your?
yeah, absolutely. Dairy can really kind of coat your throat and make it like just, phlegmy. So I stay away, like on performance days, I stay completely away from any dairy or chocolate or even sugar.
Yeah,
Sugar has a really
exactly,
bad impact on the voice as well. Yeah.
for sure. Um, so what are your most, or some of your most memorable or significant moments within your performance that stood out for you?
Um, I would have to say, as of most recently, in the last couple of years, it's been things like joining the Toronto Concert Orchestra at Casa Loma, where they've had their symphony in the gardens, where they attract over 1,200 to 1,400 people in a
Wow.
night, in this stunning, covered canopy with little tables and stuff all around, people milling around. And that was absolutely thrilling. I was lucky to have joined them a number of times. And on a bit of a smaller scale, but not any less important for me, was performing in the church that Georgina Stirling had performed in, when she would come home from her international travels and perform concerts. And there was a church that she was baptized in and grew up in. And so the first time I gave a concert there, I sang this piece, Marie, that's on my album, um, the Heart's Obsession album. And Marie was actually written by a folk singer from Newfoundland named
Oh,
Ron Hines.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so he wrote this piece about 2016.
Yeah.
About her back in the 19th century, what it must have been like for her to have been this sweet, humble girl from a fishing outport, and to have gone internationally performing around the world, and how thrilling that would have been. But really, her favorite place was home in Twillingate, Newfoundland. And so I remember, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now, because I remember standing at the front of the church performing that piece in that church for the very first time in Twillingate. And it's on the ocean right near her grave site, where there's this beautiful monument dedicated to her, and just being completely overcome with goosebumps, and my eyes welled up in tears. And I was just like, she has stood where I'm standing and has performed where I'm now performing and singing about her. And that for me was, I just think far more precious and significant than anything I've ever done, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. And what an incredible honor as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I would like to touch on your book, The Heart's Obsession. Can you please share with us more about the book, and was writing a book something you always wanted to do? And was this an organic process for you?
I definitely always wanted to write a book. I've always loved writing. Like, I write blogs, or I just write, even over the years in Facebook posts. Like, I get deep.
Yes.
And I love writing. And sometimes in normal conversation with people, I'll stumble over my words, or I'll just feel like I'm just speaking very simply and basic, language. But when I write, something happens to me, and I just feel so much more access to inspiration and descriptive language. And so writing is definitely something I always wanted to do. And through the performing of the concerts based on this Newfoundland singer from the 19th century, I obviously fell in love with her. I wanted as much of the world to know about her as possible, because she did have an international career. And just writing the book just seemed like a completely, okay, this is our next step. This is what we're doing next. And it just happened very organically. And so writing a book with my grandfather was an absolutely, like, once in a lifetime. He's 88 now.
Wow, amazing.
88 and sharp as a whip. Like, he's like a walking encyclopedia.
That's amazing though, because you can learn a lot of things. Totally.
I learned so much from him. I learned, I would write so what we did was, we cover a lot of information in the book, from like her early training to her first voice lessons in Italy, and her, her roles and her struggles as an artist. She did struggle with alcohol. She dealt with a lot of tragedy in her life. And so we cover everything from start to finish in the book.
Well, I'd love to read it.
I'll send you a copy. It really, so writing a book with him was particularly special, because I would write my chapters and then I would send them to him, and he would do a once over edit, so that everything, when it was sent to the publisher, had already kind of been like, had a first look over. And I really learned a lot from him, because he's a very exact, precise person. And his writing, I found he actually started tailoring his writing a little bit to mine, in the sense that my writing it's a little bit more personal and
it's factual.
A little, yeah. Like, he's very detail oriented, but I really try to get into her psyche and, give research and experience, so that people can really get her, And so there's so much in the book that, like, even if you're not into opera or you're not a musician, there are, quotes throughout the book. There are stories throughout the book that you can apply to your own life journey, and be inspired by that, and draw from that inspiration for your own journey on finding your own passions in life and your own heart's obsession.
Absolutely. So just kind of throwing in something additional here. So were there any female opera singers that were particularly of influence? So, obviously Maria Callas was known as the original diva. So And I mean, I think she had a fascinating life. She also had a very, it's very tragic in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which it seems to be a common thread in the field of opera. I don't know
Yeah.
about modern day, but certainly back then. Was there any one particular or number of female opera singers that kind of sort of had some level of influence, or whether it was in your style of presenting or performing or in other ways?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like you said, Maria Callas she is what kind of nailed it in for me with opera.
Yes.
Like once I heard her singing, I just was like, she's not, I mean, a lot of people will say she wasn't the most beautiful sounding voice, but she had like an amazing technique, and she had a tone and a color to her voice that as soon as you hear it, you know it's her.
Yes.
And she can bring you to tears in an instant.
Yeah.
And so that was the first singer for me that was like, okay, I love opera. She really helped seal the deal for me. And I mean, I love Renee Fleming, Kiri Te Kanawa. And obviously I've fallen in love with Georgina Stirling, and I know what she was like as a person because of the access of handwritten letters that we had the honor of, holding in our hands ourselves and seeing.
Wow.
It really is. And so when you see these handwritten letters from her to her sisters and her father back home, she's just being her. Yeah. She's just sharing with them, what she's going through, the ups and the downs, and her excitement. And the way she talks, you absolutely get an idea of the kind of person that she was. And yes, she loved to sing, but she had a huge heart, and she was like a very compassionate, loving person who just gave of her time and talents to help others. And I like hugely respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I obviously want to touch on PR and media, because you've obviously featured in publications, TV, radio, which are all amazing. So do you believe that the publicity has opened other doors and opportunities for you? So obviously mentioning CBC, Classic FM, Canada Talk, and obviously many more. So do you believe that this has helped you and opened doors? Because I really think it's important for people to understand the benefit of media and publicity. So I just kind of want to know how it helped you. And
I mean, absolutely. The publicist that I had over the last few years is Eric Elper, and he's here in Toronto. And I had a conversation with him, and he was really great in terms of helping fit some PR into the budget that I had at the time. And what I remember expressing to him at the time was, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I feel like I'm working so hard, and I have this amazing experience and product to present to people, but I'm only one person. And I'm working my butt off training and working on the program, and putting the pieces in the right order and writing, and and I am very proactive. So I, myself personally, I would email different people and connect with different people on Facebook to get the wheels going in terms of PR. And to a certain extent, it helped. But once I worked with him a little bit, he was able to really kind of kickstart it, where I was able to get some significant interviews. And then the great thing was that I formed relationships with these people, and because a lot of them were from Newfoundland, they had a personal interest in it. So then you have that rapport and that relationship with someone, and then when you have a next album or a song or something, an event coming up, now I just reach out to them personally and say, hey, Chrissy, I'm back in town. Can we do an interview? And, so it was invaluable for me, definitely, to make an investment in some PR for myself, for sure.
Amazing. So this leads me to more of your passion in terms of also giving back and philanthropy. So you're obviously the founder of Wish Arts, which is amazing. So can you share with us more about what the organization is and what it is that your role is?
Absolutely. In about 2010, I started an opera company called Wish Opera.
Yeah.
And we did do a number of fully staged productions and concerts with orchestra. And I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'll be honest with you, it was a huge undertaking while I had two very, very young kids at home.
Yeah.
And I wore, every hat imaginable because we had a tight budget, and it's like, you have to make the best that you can. But I mean, the last fully staged production we did, we got 2,000 people out over 2 nights, and it was amazing, but it was really, really taxing. And one thing I really recognized throughout working with, because I only hired Canadian artists. I hired Canadian opera singers, Canadian fashion designers, Canadian, like even some of the sets on stage were all made by furniture and design created by Canadians. And one of the things that I really recognized was, we do all this training as singers and artists, and then we can completely self-sabotage ourselves because we have that negative inner chatter going. And, you work towards an audition, and then you get out on that stage, and, I auditioned a ton of singers for these productions. And you kind of like sometimes bomb or mess something up that you in the practice room had so solid, and beat yourself up. And I really noticed a need for and not only in other artists but myself too, a need for those behind the scenes aspects of being a performer, like dealing with self-sabotage, dealing with negative inner chatter, dealing with postpartum creative depression, creating a community of artists where you feel like you can really go to them and ask for help or feel support. And so that's kind of where Wish Arts was born out of. I did a lot of training in, I did a certification in neuro-linguistic programming, which is all about how the brain works and the study of human excellence and how to set and achieve goals and, program yourself for future success. And so I took a year and I developed a course called An Artist's Journey. And it's a 6-month course offered 1 day a month. And we go through a gamut of things from anxiety to focus to positive affirmations to dealing with postpartum creative depression, all those kinds of things, and offered that program for a number of years out of my home. I would have like 15 to 18 artists at a time. And I found that work very rewarding. And not only did I feel like I was helping other artists, but I was learning from them too and helping myself. And then it was kind of like, okay, I have these other dreams of mine and I'm going to go out pursue them. And now I'm actually getting ready to launch the program online, like virtually, so that I can work with people, on a Zoom call in a class kind of setting. And so I'm excited about that. And I just really enjoy working on those aspects of being an artist as well, and not just performing, but also, the kind of psychological and emotional aspects of being an artist of any genre, really.
Yes. Well, I think it's very important because I think that, especially with the level of rejection people get, and things like that. And, I mean, I've heard a lot of things, even with these, talent shows that happen, and then people get rejected, and they don't know how to deal with it, and there's nobody in the wings to help them with the fallout. And I think it's really amazing what you're doing. So well done.
Thank you.
So that leads me to the last 2 questions. So what are the 3 key pieces of advice you would give to other entrepreneurs and others who want to pursue a career in entertainment or as an opera singer specifically?
I mean, I would say I've always been a firm believer of create what you want to see for yourself.
Yes.
You know, as singers, as actors, not so much artists, but as singers and actors for sure, you know, you go on a ton of auditions for certain roles, and you know, in the moment you take it personally, you think you're not good enough, but really that person sitting behind that audition table has a very specific character, look, vibe to them. And so it's not personal. But if you're not finding the roles for yourself that you want, or you're just not getting any work because maybe, you know, obviously it's a numbers game. There's a lot of talented people out there. My kind of mantra is like, create your own work. It's invaluable experience because you have to create from scratch.
Yeah.
You're having to be self-motivated and driven. You're having to be accountable to yourself and follow up every day. And you know, that creates a huge amount of discipline and good work ethic. And so, you know, create concerts, create showings, create plays, like, you know, don't sit and wait for your dream role to be handed to you. Create your dream role.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so, yeah. And so much of my own personal journey as an opera singer has been because I've created my own stuff, whether it's my own events, or I want to present a concert on, you know, a certain genre of music, and I take 6 months to plan it and perfect it, and then I invite everybody I know and rent a venue. All those things always lead to other things, like whether it's more inspiration, or someone's in the audience that said, that was amazing, can you come and perform that program for our congregation or for our, you know, women's seminar. I've gotten all kinds of different things that are completely outside the box of what I thought I would have gotten, just because I'm doing my thing. I'm just getting myself out there, and then it snowballs again, and you create some momentum, and other people start wanting to work with you, and it just, you know, it takes on a life of its own. And so I really, really believe in creating your own platform, be your own voice, create your own work, and create your own dream roles.
Absolutely. And you also have to be proactive. I mean, like you say, you can't sit and wait for an agent. And I think also social media has changed, you know, changed the landscape as well, and it's giving people the opportunity to produce. You know, So
and the other thing, the other thing I would add to that really is, and one thing that I really got so clear on in the last couple of years while writing the book and doing the albums, is don't be afraid to ask.
Absolutely.
You know, I kept saying to myself, oh my God, is it too bold and audacious for me to ask this person for an interview, or to ask this person to write, you know, a quote for the back of our book, an early review? Like, I got early reviews from Alan Doyle of Great Big Sea. I got, you know, Opera Canada. Like, and I just reached out to these people because they are just people. Okay, they're incredibly talented, but what is the harm in asking? The worst they can do is say no and then move on to the next thing.
Absolutely.
You know, but if they say yes, it's like,
wow.
You're like, woo!
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, don't be afraid to ask.
For sure. And the last question I have is, what legacy would you like to leave?
Wow. That's such a crazy question for some reason in my mind. I mean, I really, I guess, you know, the biggest legacy I want to leave is to know that I inspired people to follow their own path, to find their own heart's obsession, to get out and create what they want for their lives, instead of sitting around feeling like they have to wait to be chosen. Choose yourself, you know, choose yourself, produce your own stuff, cast yourself as a star. You know, we have one life, and just do as much, like, make as much magic as you can with that one life. And I mean, I just think, I'd love to create a legacy of just, you know, knowing that I inspired people to follow their dreams, and you know, and obviously be a respected author and respected musician.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a good mom.
Yes, exactly. So if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what would be the best platforms or connection points for people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty active on Instagram,
Okay.
at Tonia Cianciulli, and Facebook. And then, I mean, they can, obviously my website is very simple, wisharts.ca. So you can contact me through my website, or my email address would be on there, Tonia@wisharts.ca. So yeah, any of those platforms really.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Tonia, for joining
Thank
us.
you, Karen. It's been
And
so nice.
yeah, and hopefully we'll have you back in the future to see what you're going to be doing.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.